Hey everyone, this is Caleb with Rock Video Rental, and we just want to tell you a little bit more about hosting a podcast on Anchor. It works great for us. We actually have two podcasts on this platform. It's free and easy to use. Anchor helps distribute your podcast for you on other popular platforms. Their creation tools are easy to use, and you don't need a fancy computer. You can do it from your phone. And an added bonus too, it's easy to make money. Even if you have a small listenership or a big one, there's a way that you can still make money from it. So learn more and check it out by downloading the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm today to get started.
Hey guys, and welcome to Blue Brothers 2. This time it's personal. I am your host Brandon, and with me as always is Caleb. Caleb, how you going?
I'm doing pretty good. I do have one question for you though. If you've ever experienced this, because I experienced something weird the other day. I was on Facebook, and I was wondering if you've ever been on Facebook and you've noticed that someone you know that lives out of town comes to your town, but then doesn't even say, yo, what's up, man? And you see all these pictures that they took around town, and you're just like, what the heck? Has that ever happened to you?
Can't say that it has, because nobody comes to my town on purpose.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna give you a crap because I'm sitting there on Facebook and I'm like, oh, look who's in town.
Well, it was for a family day though.
I know. I was just kidding.
If it was just me, I probably would have hit you up, but
yeah, I was messing because I was just like, I saw that and I was like, oh, I had no idea. It's not like it's that far of a drive, so it's not like he came out of state or something.
You know what's funny is that that was on Saturday, and the next day I met with my friend Andy to watch the Lions game, and he's like, "So, saw you were in town the other day."
Nice.
That's just funny. You guys both give me crap for that.
Well played, Andy. Well played.
So, what have you been watching?
Well, watched the movie for tonight. Man, have I really watched anything else? We started watching The Office again. And man, I thought there was maybe something in there that something else I watched, but I really don't think so. Like outside of sports and The Office and what we watched for this week, I don't think there was anything else I really picked up to watch recently. So it's been a little bit busy for me. But what about you? I know usually you've got at least one thing, something.
Yeah, I got quite a few things. Because I'm still continuing with my horror movie marathon. I like to get a whole bunch of movies done, leading up to October, so I can get a bunch of reviews done and post them on my blog. But I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to run out of them. So, I'm kind of getting almost daily now watching movies. Let me think. Other than watching The Office and, sports, just the same as you, I watched the original Nightmare on Elm Street a few days ago. I also watched part 4, and then tonight I watched part 3. I also watched the slasher movie Slaughter High, and I watched Sorority Babes and the Slime Ball Bolorama.
Nice.
which is an actual movie. Yeah, just try to knock out some movies for some reviews. So just checking out some things I've seen, some things I haven't seen. It's just been kind of an interesting mix of movies this year.
Nice. Well, I might have something next week to share because, and it might actually be a movie that I'll see in theater. Running out of air. No. Yeah. So we talked about seeing it last week, but my wife is actually interested. I'm interested. Surprisingly enough, in seeing the Joker movie. So we
Yeah.
might see that tomorrow night because the kids are going over to the grandparents. So
I was actually interested in that as well. We were originally going to go see it, but plans changed. We ended up doing something else, but I might just wait for it to come out on on demand or DVD or something to check it out because it does seem pretty interesting and all the controversy that seems to be following it.
yeah, it'll be. I think it'll be fun to watch. I've been trying to avoid information to not have anything spoiled. But she has
Yeah,
plans in the evening, like early evening, and so we're gonna go late evening. But if she goes late, then I might still go see it with my brother. So I don't know. We'll see.
rock.
But yeah.
Well, I think with that we could move on to the first segment, which is Did You Know? The classic Did You Know? Our normal segment we always do weekly, which is basically just random facts that you can use for life, for trivia, and just to shock some people. Um, and this week it is my turn.
Shock me.
Thrill me. So, yeah, this week, I just wanted to find something kind of interesting. And one thing I've always been interested in is animals. And it, this comes from North America's only marsupial, the opossum.
Aha.
Uh, I'm sure everybody's heard the term of playing possum. Did you know that when the possum plays possum, they're actually literally passing out due to terror?
Oh, so they don't do it on purpose.
No, not really.
Okay. Interesting. I did not
Yeah,
realize that. So it's a defense mechanism that is not voluntarily triggered.
right.
Huh. I I don't think I've heard that about other animals, but I don't think I knew that about the possum.
Yeah, I thought that was something they voluntarily did, kind of like, um, oh, like ground birds, like a grouse or something like that.
Oh yeah.
There's also the bird called the woodcock that'll pretend like it's hurt
Mm-hmm.
and lead you like away from its nest. Um, I thought it was something like that because I was one time I was walking out in the woods as a kid with one of my friends, and like I thought I stepped on a woodcock, but the bird would, it was just like kind of limping around with its wing dragging, and I'm like, oh man, I heard this bird, but then I found out later, what the bird was and what it was doing. So,
Nice.
kind of a effective defense mechanism there.
Then the bird went home and was just like, dude, this douche kid stepped on me.
I totally tricked this kid.
You should see the stupid look on his face.
Oh gosh. Yeah, and with that wrapped up, now we can move in to the main topic of the week. And it seems like, with a with a did you know about something playing dead and the fact that we're reviewing a horror movie, it seems like I could have played off from that to make a smoother transition, but we're not that talented. So this week, the horror movie that we are reviewing is Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, It is directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. It is from 1982. The plot is an apparent murder-suicide in a hospital emergency room leads to an investigation by an on-call doctor, which reveals a plot by an insane toy maker to kill as many people as possible during Halloween through an ancient Celtic ritual involving a stolen boulder from Stonehenge and Halloween mask.
That is so extensive. Like,
Yes, that
you
that
gave
was
away
taken.
so much in that plot.
That is taken directly from IMDb.
I feel like that's a little too extensive. Like, if I had read that before I watched the movie, I would have been annoyed the fact that they said so much in the description.
I felt like I had to keep it just because that plot was as bonkers as this movie is.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I'm like, you know what? Almost everybody has seen this movie or at least heard about it. So, I mean, it's from 1982. So,
Yeah, you're not going to spoil for anybody. I mean, like, if somebody's a horror movie fan, chances are they've seen this movie.
yeah, and actually, this movie turned 37 uh, earlier this week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, and I think we may have mentioned it before, but I had not seen this movie
Hmm.
before this, so I will be bringing you brand new revelations.
And it's kind of worked out well that we've watched movies that you haven't seen before, and they're like at the same time they're movies that I've seen a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives both sides of the spectrum. Um, I'll mention the cast here. It's not a very big cast for the movie. And I guess I never really thought about it because there's tons of like small, uh, extras and just like bit roles in this movie. There's really only like three main characters, and we're looking at we got Tom Atkins as Dr. Daniel Chalice, Dan O'Herlihy as Connell Cochran, and Stacey Nelkin as Ellie Grimbridge. Um,
And that's
yeah, like I said, just a small cast, just a ton of supporting actors, and small actors that might be named, but the characters really mean nothing to the story.
yeah, there's really, I mean, the only other person that I feel like shows up throughout the whole movie that but even the role is so tiny was the nurse or the mortician or the coroner.
Yeah, I kind of I couldn't really exactly figure out what her job was, so I just put her down as like the forensics girl.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the movie starts off. We get this guy. He's running away. We shortly find out he's running away from these guys that are dressed in suits, and he is holding a jack-o'-lantern mask. He runs off into a junkyard, and these guys come after him. He's fighting with one. He fends one off, and he ends up running away and going to a gas station where the attendant helps him out. Um, and then we meet our main character, which is Dr. Chalice. He goes what I assumed was home, but what I took from it is that did he go see his ex-wife and his kids?
I think it was maybe his ex-wife's house.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. And I mean, things get a little confusing with his relationships as that movie goes on.
Yeah.
And I guess I never paid too close attention to it until I listened to the "How Did This Get Made" episode,
Mm-hmm.
and then rewatched the movie. And yeah, it's kind of funny because so we're starting to like assume that's his ex-wife and his kids. He brings them some Halloween masks, and they don't want them because they got the latest and greatest, kind of it costume for the year, which are these Halloween masks made by the company Silver Shamrock. And kind of the big deal that year is that there is going to be a giveaway at 9 o'clock on Halloween night where everybody's supposed to tune in and watch while wearing their mask, and the giveaway will be announced. And man, I kind of feel bad for Dr. Chalice because, he runs into the house, happy to see his kids, and like his ex-wife just instantly starts hounding on him for stuff.
Yeah.
And then he gets a page, and then he calls into the office, and he's got to go back into work. So it's like he stops by for 2 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and basically it's just like, hey, remember you're taking the kids trick or treating, and he's like, yeah, I know, whatever. So he goes back to work, and that's where we see the man that was running away from the suited guys. He's basically in a state of shock. Goes to the point where he is he like in a coma or something, or like is he sleeping? It's really hard to figure out.
He wasn't. I don't think he was in a coma. He did have reaction to what was going on around him, but yeah, state of shock, I think. Then asleep.
Yeah, and he's laying on a gurney, and the Silver Shamrock commercial comes on, and that wakes him up, and he says to Dr. Chalice, like, they're going to kill us all, while he's still clenching the mask, and then he goes back out. The guy brings him in. He leaves. We get a little more at the hospital. You see one of the suited guys come in, go into the guy's room, and the man is murdered. And it's kind of an interesting way. So the suited guy gets his fingers and reaches down and digs into the guy's eye sockets, grabs the bridge of his nose, and breaks his skull. And the first time I saw this, I'm like, that would be really painful, but would it kill a person? I mean, if you dug into his brain, then yeah, but from what I could tell is that you just grabbed the guy's skull and crushed part of it.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point because I mean, the skull, I mean, your sockets, I think there's bone in between, a bit of bone between the top of your eyes and your brain area. So yeah, to get your fingers through there and do any brain damage, I don't know. That's a good point. But my thought when that was happening was the fact that the guy was not struggling.
I noticed that too. He just kicked his feet a little bit. I don't know if he was just super exhausted and, like I said, in a state of shock where he's close to comatose, or what was going on. Like you said, he didn't hardly put up a fight at all.
I think that it was kind of a movie theme, not like that they did it deliberately, but there were other times that I noticed that people were getting attacked or killed and they just sat there and took it.
Maybe he was just ready to go, I guess. So the man who kills him, he is, he starts slowly stepping away, and a nurse comes in and yells at him, which leads him to walk out. Dr. Chalice comes running in, asking what's happened. The nurse explains, and he goes running after the guy. The killer walks out to the parking lot, gets in his car, gets a jug of gasoline, pours it on himself, and lights himself on fire.
And the car explodes.
Yeah, of course the car explodes. I mean, it's the 80s. So, they bring in the cops. They come in. They talk to the doctor and the nurse and everything. And it's obvious that Dr. Chalice is kind of shaken by the whole thing. He mentions on the phone, he calls his ex-wife, and she instantly just starts hounding him about taking the kids out for Halloween again. And he's basically telling her, hey, shut up.
Which is week out. right?
Yeah, it's like she's reminding him again, and he's like, "Yeah, I know." It's like, "I'm not going to be coming back tonight because two people died in the hospital, and it wasn't meant to happen. It was like it was a murder suicide." And she's just like, "What are you gonna take You're gonna take the kids trick or treating, aren't you?"
Yeah. And they explain it throughout the whole movie, like, what day it is, day of the week, and what the date is, and how far away Halloween is, and it's in the commercial too. That
Yeah,
tells you how
they're
many
8 days
days.
out.
Yeah, like
uh,
chill.
yeah, so he leaves the hospital. He's done for the night. He goes to a local bar and just has a couple drinks to kind of come down from what just happened at the hospital. Um, and that's the moment where the daughter of the man who was killed walks into the bar, and they start talking, and she's trying to figure out what happened to her dad and everything. And she's got her ideas, he's got his ideas, so they decide basically together that they're going to team up and investigate what happened. She's got like his planner, the dad's planner, what he's going to do, and they find out that he went to the town of Santa Mira to pick up more of the silver shamrock mask for his store.
Hmm.
And it was between that time and when he was supposed to come back and meet somebody for dinner, I believe, that was when he died. So they know it was between those two things. So they head out to Santa Mira to investigate. And this whole thing is kind of funny because those two just met each other, and she has like no problem just getting in a car with a guy and heading out to some place she's never been before.
Well, he's a doctor. I mean, back in the 80s, you always trusted doctors.
This is true. And actually, they pretend that they're a married couple to kind of throw people off. And they stay at a hotel together. And there's like they meet a few different people. There's this annoying family. That's all I wrote down is like the annoying family. I believe their names are like oh man,
Oh man, I can't remember.
the Gutmans. Yeah, the Gutmans. So they meet the Gutman family, which is consists of Buddy. He's a traveling salesman. Um, and then you got the wife. I can't remember her name. And then they had little Buddy, who was just like he's a complete brat.
Yeah.
Uh, so he gets on his bike and he takes off. And the mom's just like, "Stay out of the road." And then like the kid turns around and flips his mom off.
Yeah.
I can tell you, if I turned around and flipped my mom off when I was like 10, like that kid, I probably would have lost that arm.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking that too. I was just like, geez, what's going on?
Yeah, and um, along with the Gutmans, we also meet a woman named Marge. She's there she's actually going to go to Silver Shamrock as well and complain about a missed order that she had. And she's also irritated with the quality of the mask because like the little round medallion that has the logo on it fell off on one she had. Um, and her and Ellie kind of have like an awkward conversation, I guess. Um, it's kind of brief, but the two kind of learn a little bit about each other in a time, and then Ellie goes back in the room. And Dr. Chalice, he goes off somewhere to he goes and gets like a drink or something. He gets like a bottle of liquor, and on his way back, a homeless man like stops him, and he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "that bottle looks pretty heavy." He's like, I don't have any diseases. You mind if I take a drink?" And he just lets this random homeless guy take a drink out of his bottle.
I know, right? Thank you. I was gonna say that part was really screwed up.
uh, so yeah, the homeless guy's telling him, like there's more than meets the eye with this town. And he's like, it used to be a great town until, you know, Cochran came in, and all of his hires for the Silver Shamrock were outside hires. So, and he's pretty much run all the other businesses out. And he, it gives like, he's got cameras everywhere. He can see what's going on. He's probably listening to us right now. And, Chalice wants to know more. The guy won't say anymore, so he walks off. And then they show Ellie. She's back at the hotel. This is another weird thing that happens in this. So she's taking a shower, and she gets out of the shower and grabs a towel, and then immediately wraps in a blanket.
Yeah, that whole moment was completely odd to me because it was pointless. Because it was like that split second. It's just like, go back to the motel. They show that she's in the shower. She gets out of the shower, like you said, put blanket or the towel, then the blanket, and then she sits on the bed, and then that's it. And then they go either back to him or to the lady in the room next to them, and like that was it. It's just like, what? That added nothing.
It's kind of one of those moments like you would see in a Friday the 13th movie where there's just some random girl taking a shower. But in the Friday the 13th movie, they would show her naked and everything, and it's like, okay, well, they got to get their boob quota in. But with this movie, it's just like, you don't see anything. I mean, you see kind of like some, Peter Griffin side boob. But like she just puts the towel on and rolls up into a blanket. Like it was really pointless to show that.
Yeah. Well, I thought something was gonna like maybe happen, like somebody was in the room, or maybe they had cameras in the room, or maybe they were going for, like you were saying, the cliche horror content. But yeah, it was nothing. Like she was in the shower, got out of the shower, sat down. That was it.
Yeah, there was really nothing more to it. And right after that, Dr. Chalice, he comes back, and he is talking to Ellie about what he learned from the homeless guy, and all of a sudden she like walks up to the bathroom and drops the blanket, and she's in lingerie, and then basically like she seduces him.
Well, I think I kind of felt like part of the reason he went to help her was because he was attracted to her in the first place.
Yeah, and there's a part too when they first get to the hotel and they sit down, and he's like,
oh yeah,
he's like, I'm sorry we're like in this circumstance, but if it makes you more comfortable, I can get a different room. And she's like, no, that might seem suspicious because we're supposed to be married. And he's like, yeah, that's a good point. He's like, well, he's like, I'd be fine sleeping in a car. That's okay. And he's like, it'd probably be more comfortable than sleeping on the floor in here. And she's like, no, you don't have to do that. And he's like, okay. He's like, then where am I going to sleep? And she's like, well, where do you want to sleep? And looks at him.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is so awkward. And I guess that's, kind of when like the spark ignites. And then, he comes back and she's in lingerie and like seduces him. And that was when I started to wonder too. Was like, okay, that must have been his ex-wife that he saw at the beginning of the movie when he brought the mask of the kids.
Yeah, I can't remember when I figured that out. I think it was before they left to go to that town. I can't remember what it was, but
yeah, and it's like it's awkward too because he's got the ex-wife. Now he's got Ellie coming on to him, and he was also flirting with the forensics lady or the coroner or whatever as well. And she actually kisses him on the lips before he leaves, and it's like obviously that they have some kind of relationship as well. And it's not like they might be super close friends or something, but it's never really explained.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think they were kind of trying to go for like he's a player kind of thing, maybe, but
yeah, like a ladies' man or something.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's like all the women in this movie kind of just throw themselves at him, except for his ex-wife, who just yells at him all the time.
Basically, yeah.
But yeah, so it's at this moment too where they show next door, they show Marge, and she's laying in bed watching TV, and she notices there's like a chip or something on the back of the medallion that fell off the mask that she brought. And she starts picking at it with a bobby pin, and all of a sudden a laser shoots out of the pin and blasts her in the mouth. And it's like a really gross special effect we get. So like it's like her mouth is like peeled open and her teeth are just like ripped apart.
Mm-hmm.
And her eyes are like all bloodshot, and like some kind of bug crawls out of her mouth.
Yeah, I don't even know what kind of bug that was.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like a mixture of like a cricket and a spider. And I don't know,
Yeah.
it's really hard to explain. Like you just have to see. You just have to see it to try to figure out what it is. So the next morning, obviously there's like an ambulance and everything. Oh, and before that too, there's a part that made me laugh. So Ellie and Dr. Chalice are laying in bed, and then it's obvious that they just like slept together. And she starts coming on to him again, and he's like, uh, "Are you ever gonna?" He's like, "Are you ever gonna get tired or something like that?" He says, "Aren't you worn out yet?" And she says, "Never." And he's like, "Wait a minute." He's like, "How old are you?" Which makes me laugh every single time because it's like it's obvious that they just slept together, and then he asks how old she is, and she like smiles and she says, um, "I'm older than I look," and then he's just like, "Okay." And it's I don't know why you really ask her that because she's not like super young. It's obvious that she's probably like 20.
Yeah. So at least 20 probably. So
Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah, so anyway, back to the part, the ambulance shows up and Connell Cochran's actually there, and he explains
and he's the
that,
owner of the mask company.
yeah, he owns Silver Shamrock, and he like explains, she's gonna be taken care of, um, best hospitals, all that kind of stuff. So she's rushed off, and they go to take their tour of Silver Shamrock. Um, Cochran's explaining kind of like the history of all this stuff and everything, and he says how uh, Buddy Gutman is his top salesman, and he wants to take him on this tour as like kind of a thank you for selling so many masks. And Gutman invites Dr. Chalice and Ellie to go with them. They show everything, and there's like all these crazy like lifelike toys and like gags and stuff that Cochran has made at Silver Shamrock. And it's towards the end of the tour where they go outside, and Ellie looks over and she sees her dad's car in a barn. Well, she rushes over to like investigate that, and like the guards step in front of her and they stop her from entering. That's the time where they notice something's going on. It's like, okay, something serious is happening here. We probably should get out of here since the whole town is under surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember exactly how the two kind of get separated, but the guards, like some of the henchmen from Silver Shamrock, capture Ellie, and then they come after Dr. Chalice, and he's fighting with them, and he ends up like punching one, knocking down one, and punching him in the stomach, and that's when we find out that uh, the henchmen are robots.
They're Terminators.
He punches through one of their stomachs, and like a bunch of yellow ooze comes up, and he's hanging onto wires and everything, and oh god, it's funny.
Yeah, I actually thought throughout the movie up until this point that they acted very kind of I actually put in my notes was comparing them to kind of like the Agent Smith character in The Matrix.
Yeah, very like stoic, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Um, no emotion, very deliberate
Yeah. So
movements and everything.
I found out that it was a robot, I was just like, oh, so I was kind of right, But
The first time I saw this, like, and they found out they're robots, and I'm like, what? Like, did this movie really need another thing like that?
yeah.
Um,
Well, this is, and I'll say this. So this is pretty far in the movie. I mean, what would you say, like an hour into the movie, maybe longer, probably?
yeah, something like that.
And
Yeah, because
it's
we're
an
getting right towards like the climax and all that.
Yeah, so it's an hour and 40 minutes long. And so you're well over halfway through. And up until this point, I was just like, it's a pretty decent movie. I mean, it's moving along, it's got some interesting stuff. And then the robots showed up, and I was like, okay, a little bit different. Let's see where it takes it. And I mean, as you've heard from the description at the beginning, they start incorporating a lot of different weird things. And I was just like, I just felt like it was a little bit too much. Like it
Yeah,
had a good thing
that's
going, and then they took it a little bit too far.
yep. And this is the part where Dr. Chalice he gets captured as well. He gets brought back to Silver Shamrock, and it's at this time where Connell Cochran, shows like his true colors. He's explaining that not many people realize what Halloween is all about, and it originated back hundreds of years ago, and um, it's like it's full of witchcraft, and it's a pagan holiday where animals and children were sacrificed to the gods,
Hmm.
in order for like a good harvest and all that kind of stuff. And that's when he starts talking about his plan that he has to return Halloween to its, you know, bloody origins. And that's when we find out his setup he has with the mask,
Oh
the
wait,
Stonehenge. What?
I think it's after this. Like he has a specific line that kind of says that I want to say that's I just thought was weird, but I think it's
Okay.
after he explains it.
Yeah, so he has like he talks about the tie-in with the mask, the Stonehenge rock, and the commercial, and he's like, "Why tell you?" Pretty much, saying like, "Why tell you when I can show you?" And Chalice is like really confused at this point, and they show the Gutman family getting put into a room that's set up like a typical living room from the time. Uh, and a TV comes on and the commercial plays, and like the dad's like, I think he wants me to take notes on the commercial and let him know how it is, since I'm so important because I sold all these masks. So he wants my input. And the son he puts his mask on and he's standing there watching the commercial, and it's like this flashing pumpkin that comes up, and they play this song that's it's all basically what it is. It's London Bridge,
Yeah.
uh, except for they changed it's the tune of London Bridge. They changed to Happy Happy Halloween Silver Shamrock. Play it over, and like this flashing pumpkin starts going off, and it has a reaction with the little round medallion that's on the back of the mask. And slowly, the mask starts like reacting to the screen, and suddenly, like little buddy with the mask on, he starts grabbing at his head, and the camera swings around, and like the mask looks like it's like rotting on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he falls to the ground, and like his mouth like pries open, and like a whole bunch of crickets come out of his mouth, and followed by snakes and other bugs, and there's like a few different kinds of snakes that come out of his mouth, and little buddy dies, which
Yeah, obviously.
which is crazy because like that rarely happens in horror movies, like where children are killed.
Yeah.
It's literally like the only Halloween movie in the whole series where children are killed.
Hmm.
Other than the 2018 where a little boy dies. But so there's like a rattlesnake comes out, and he bites the snake bites little buddy's dad, kills him, and the mother gets killed as well. So the whole family dies while Chalice is watching them on TV. um, and he gets tied up to a cart and put into a room, and they're going to do the same thing to him. Is this when you were going to use the quote?
Yeah, well, he shows him this, and also like right before they watch that is when the reveal of the he has the stolen Stonehenge stone
Mm.
thing. And so then so first the robots, then the Stonehenge thing, and I'm just like, okay, chill out, guys. You didn't really need to do the Stonehenge thing. You know, things were going okay.
Hmm.
So now it's just getting a little bit too crazy. But then I think it was when he tied him up or something. But somewhere around this point, um, what was his name again? How do you say it? The bad guy,
Oh, Connell Cochran.
Connell Cochran. Yeah, there we go. He he talks to the doctor and he's just like, "Do I need a reason?" And he said, I like jokes, and it's like he was explaining that it's like the ultimate joke or something. And I'm just like, what? How? What? Like, okay, are you doing this for the witch thing, or are you doing this for? I think that killing people is funny, kind of a joke thing, because
Hmm.
it doesn't. You can't have either or. It's either you're doing this for the witch thing, or you're doing this for a joke thing.
Yeah, and I don't know. Just the whole thing is funny. Like, so he thinks that's like the biggest joke or like the biggest prank you can pull. I'm just gonna kill millions of children, all across the country.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, like I thought, because we've talked a little bit about this movie before, and I thought when you talked about the whole mass thing and like it killing people, then I thought the kids like became killers and
Oh
killed
yeah,
their parents. And I was just like, dude, this sounds like creepy and like super creepy, like Children of Corn and whatnot. But
yeah,
then it wound up just like killing the kid, which in turn kills the parents. And I was just like, dang, that's messed up.
yeah. That's why I didn't want to give any of that away for you because the first time I saw this, like it blew my mind. But then I laughed too because like, why is there bugs and snakes coming out of the kid's head?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So Dr. Chow's he's strapped down to like a dolly or something with a mask on, and set in front of a TV, and Cochran basically just leaves him there until the broadcast of the giveaway at 9 o'clock. Um, so he walks off. He's under surveillance in this room. Chalice, you know, kicks the TV, breaks the TV, and he gets a piece of glass and he starts cutting the straps off. He takes his mask off, and he has like a 1 in a million shot of throwing the mask onto the camera.
Hmm.
That covers the camera so they can't watch him. Um, he ends up getting free of the restraints. He breaks out. He runs off and he calls his ex-wife, who, of course, instantly starts yelling at him because he's not taking the kids trick or treating. He's supposed to be there taking them trick or treating after he said he's a few times,
And it's
and he
actually
just keeps telling,
Halloween. So
yeah,
so
because
she does have a point.
yeah, so, and he's just like, no, you got to listen to me, like this is serious, like shut up for a minute and listen to me, and he actually does say shut up for a minute. And he's like, you can't let them watch. He's like, take the mask away. You can't let them watch the giveaway. He's like, you got to take the mask away. And she asks, like, have you been drinking? He's like, I haven't drank anything. He's like, I'm serious. You got to take the mask away from him. Um, and she's just like thinking he's nuts, yelling at him for not taking him trick or treating. And he hangs up, and he's trying to find Ellie. He finds her strapped down to a table in a room. Um, he rescues her. They get out of there. Uh, they go back to like the warehouse area where the Stonehenge is at, and they're sneaking around upstairs. They grab a box of the medallions that haven't been put on the mask yet. Uh, he goes downstairs. He switches on the commercial and like overrides the computer so they can't like turn it off. He gets the medallions and he dumps them down while the flashing pumpkin's going off, and it shoots like a bunch of lasers out and lightning and everything, and it kills like all the people that are working for Cochrane.
All the
And it's just,
robots.
yeah, all the robots. And Cochrane, he's just standing there, like, kind of just smiling, like, just, I guess, kind of impressed with his uh, resourcefulness.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, all I can do is just kind of laugh, kind of thing. And, the commercial's still going off, and there's a bunch of TVs in a circle that are all facing each other. Well, like, this energy ring starts forming around the TVs from the screens. And that reacts with the Stonehenge rock, and Cochrane standing in between those, and like a bright white light like envelops him, and he just has this big smile on his face, and he just like dissolves.
I guess gets fried. It kind of reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark, except for he doesn't melt; he just gets fried.
Yeah, he just kind of like vanishes.
Yeah,
And when this whole thing goes off, like everything starts exploding, and the buildings like falling apart. Chalice and Ellie, they escape, and you're trying to like get the town so they can warn everybody of what's going on. Uh, and then all of a sudden, Ellie like reaches over and starts choking Chalice while he's driving. He drives into a tree. She's thrown from the car. He gets up, and that's when he realizes that she is also a robot.
yeah.
And she starts coming after him. He grabs a tire iron and smacks her in the face and knocks her head off. But like her arm is still alive and it's choking him, and it's so ridiculous because like, okay, I can get the strong robot arm choking him. It's kind of like the Terminator,
Mm-hmm.
where it's around his neck and he's trying to pull it free. But there's a part where the hand like switches grips, and he's still trying to pull it away. I'm like, how is it hanging onto him? But the hand is like open on his chin with the fingers spread out. It's like not choking him at all. Like, how's it hanging onto him?
Yeah.
But anyway, he gets free of Ellie.
Well, in that
He gets up.
scene, the something about that scene though is that it's really funny because they do it like what 4 or 5 times, with like trying to do a jump scare or something. Because they
Yeah.
did it when she started choking him, then they crash, and then he goes around the car to try to find her, and then she jumps from behind him, and
Hmm.
then he hits her with the tire iron, and then he gets in the car, and then the other one. Then the arm that broke off starts choking him, and then he gets rid of it, and then the robot on the ground grabs his leg, like just over and over and over again. They're just like, "Watch out, watch out, watch out," and it's like, dude, okay,
It's like
until it was
yeah,
never ending.
yeah. I feel like they were trying to do like the Terminator, where it's the Terminator's chasing Sarah Connor at the end of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and like the Terminator is basically just like an upper body just crawling, but it's still coming for her. I
Yeah.
feel like it was kind of like that. Um, and actually, does this predate the Terminator?
Oh, actually, you know what? That's a good question. I'm not sure. Let me look that
It
up.
does by 2 years. That's
Oh,
interesting. But anyway, so maybe the Terminator ripped that part off.
maybe. Well done,
that would be
Halloween.
that would be hilarious. Um, so basically, he gets free of the Ellie robot, and he goes to the gas station where Ellie's dad went to at the beginning of the movie, and he uses the phone and he calls like a broadcast company, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and he's screaming that at them. He's like, "Turn the broadcast off." He's like, "Turn it off." So they get the one channel off. They switch to the next one. It's on there, and he's screaming to get that one taken off. The second one's taken off. Then they get to like the last, uh, network channel, and the commercial's still on, and he just keeps screaming. He's like, "Channel 3 is still on. You have to turn it off." He's like, "Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off," and then it just goes black.
Yeah.
The movie goes black. So it's one of the few movies that it doesn't have a happy ending.
Mm-hmm. Well, then it doesn't technically tell you what happens.
No, it leaves kind of on the cliffhanger, which the first time I saw this, like that ending kind of got to me. Like one of those things where it's like the hairs stand up on the back of your neck because you realize like what's happening.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess like just the idea of, he did all he could, but that one channel was still on. So, no telling how many people were affected by that.
Yeah. Well, uh, a couple things to mention. Smaller details that didn't really need to be brought up earlier, but at one point in the movie they show how the masks are like so this movie takes place in California. I can't remember if that was mentioned.
Yeah.
But then they show like Ohio, Nebraska, Chicago, I think, or so. They show like all these places across America that have these masks.
Hmm.
And so I didn't think, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was the 80s. I don't know exactly how it all would work, but it was just kind of like if they're doing broadcasting this stuff, it's just like I feel like he would have only affected his area by shutting down those channels.
Yeah, unless he called the broadcast company or something.
Yeah, the
Or I
national
don't know.
broadcast company, but like, I mean, okay, and I get it. It is what it is, and they're trying to make it dramatic and everything. But first of all, for any company to take anyone seriously who calls and has something like that to say,
Yeah.
but then secondly, if it's the national like company, because I interpreted it that was the local thing. But if he was doing like a national one, it'd be like, dude, it would take you at least like a half an hour to get connected to the right person to be able to make a decision like that.
Probably you'd have to talk to an automated service. If you'd like to talk to someone in accounting, please press 1.
Exactly. And
And
I
the whole
know
time
like
just
that's
screaming,
thinking
turn it off!
that's thinking way too in depth about it, but that did come to mind when that movie ended. So
And talking about thinking way into depth, I know I got some interesting things to bring up here with this movie. Just because I've seen it so many times and I start thinking about different things, the more I read about it, the more interesting it becomes to me. Um, so, let's get past the fact that, Halloween 3, like, it has, like, no relation to the first 2 movies.
mm-hmm.
Um, that was a lot of the issue that people had with it. It's that, there's no Michael Myers. The first 2 had Michael Myers and Laurie Strode in it. Dr. Loomis running around trying to get Michael. And this one has, like, absolutely nothing to do with it. And people were really hung up onto that. But the one thing that I question about it,
Mm-hmm.
why is it called Season of the Witch? There's no witches.
Well, I thought when he was explaining it that he was kind of saying that he was a witch, or he was like trying to bring back the season of the witch kind of concept.
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, like implied at or nodded at, inferred.
Yeah.
Um,
But
it's just so it's like is it called that because Cochran is into witchcraft? It's
I
like, but if he was into witchcraft, he'd be a warlock.
yeah, well, yeah, that so much of that, and I'm totally on board with you because I was thinking about that, and then that's also when he was talking about making it like um, it's the ultimate joke or whatever, and it's just like, dude, are you like again focus on the witchcraft part of it, or are you focus on this being a weird, twisted, messed up joke?
Right.
So yeah, it was kind of really confusing with that, but yeah, no, I agree, and so it was a weird title for it.
Yeah, and the second thing I've got here is like, so this movie exists in a world where 1978's Halloween is a movie because it's shown on TV numerous times.
Yeah, I saw that.
So has it? I wonder, has it ever been done in a direct sequel? Because this movie is the third one in the series. There's like no way of trying to hide that. It's like, has there ever been a sequel where they have the ones before it, like, are just movies and it didn't happen in real life?
Oh, I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, that I was thinking about that on the way through the movie. The
Yeah.
last two I have are kind of interesting. So we talked about the bright white light kind of just engulfing Cochrane as he smiles and he just disappears, kind of like he's being beamed up in Star Trek or something. Um, my question is, did he die?
Yeah, I think he
Because he
died.
was smiling when he vanished. It's like, did he pass on into a state of enlightenment or like into another dimension?
I think he died.
I was kind of thinking like, everybody's got uh, the idea of um, Stranger Things
Oh yeah.
when the cop from Stranger Things
Yeah, it gets caught
at
and
the
all that.
end. Yeah, that's what it made me think of. How I was like, nobody ever really talks about that because like we just assume he dies, but did he actually die? That'd be one thing. Like if they wanted to make a sequel now to
Yeah,
the third one.
he kind of looked like he like we mentioned kind of got fried. So my interpretation was that he died. But and he I mean he was just so messed up mentally. It's just like he was smiling for whatever reason, whatever.
Yeah,
So,
I guess just because his plan was going as planned. I guess.
yeah.
Uh, and then the last thing I've got for kind of think something to think about is one thing that I've always wondered with this movie. So when Ellie is revealed as an android,
Mhm.
my question is, was she an android the whole time, or did Cochrane change her into one?
I'm pretty sure he changed her into one because I actually figured she was a robot.
Hmm.
Because when he rescued her, ever since the point that he rescued her and she attacked him, she did not say a single word.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I
I
didn't think
was
about that.
I realized that when they started driving away, I was just like, has she even spoken since he rescued her? And I was just like, this is weird. This seems like it's not her. And then,
Yeah.
a few moments later, she attacks him. So I do think that she was a really originally human. And then, because she showed emotions and things like that, had personality and whatnot. But then when she was a robot, she was very plain, simple, stoic, like you were saying before, and she didn't
Hmm.
speak. So,
Just a couple things to think about on that. It's like, so if we're to believe that she was a robot the whole time, um, why was it her directive to find a random doctor, seduce him, and then try to kill him? Like if
yeah.
she was a robot the whole time, because then you start thinking about it as like Dr. Chalice had sex with a robot.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
If she
yeah.
was a robot the whole time and he didn't notice. Um, but if she was turned into a robot, how fast does Cochrane work?
No, I know, right?
Because they were separated for a couple hours.
They were separated overnight because she was abducted. He found out she was missing, and the robot suit guys showed up to get him and chased him through town for a little while. But then they got him back to the warehouse, and Cochrane was saying, you'll learn tomorrow, or we'll wait until morning or whatever. And then morning came, and that's when he revealed to him what was going on. So there
Hmm.
was there was a relatively decent chunk of time. I mean, like probably can't be more than 8 hours at most, but
Yeah, so and that whole time, so apparently Cochrane was just making this robot that looks exactly like Ellie.
yeah. Well, and then on top of that, like one of the things about the robots that kind of got to me was that they knew what to do without being told.
Hmm.
Like, I'm trying to think of any other movie, but the only other kind of thing that I can think of that where it's just like a robot knows what to do without being told is like Terminator. It's just like kill everything, you
Yeah.
know. So what do you have to do? You don't really have to tell them anything. It's just like they're just going to go around and kill everything. But it's just like if you have any other machine or robot, it's just like you have to give it commands. But when she tried to get to the car, they stepped in front of her. When they were chasing down the guy, they just went there to kill him. But there, what were some of the other things? Yeah, like they were searching for them at certain points, and so they were going through the town, and they were operating computers and machines, but I think the one specific part was when they used an elevator, and so two of them got in the elevator with them, keeping the doctor hostage. They get out of the elevator, they walk out, they release him, and then they go back in the elevator, and it's just like how do they know without being told what to do? Because when the doctor escaped, one of the robots came up to tell Cochrane, but then just stood there waiting instead of being like, oh, my objective is to go make sure that this is done. Like he needed specific instructions at that point. So
Yeah.
I don't know. One of those things where thinking a little bit too much about it, but at the same time, it's like you have these advanced robots that somehow just know exactly what they're supposed to do all the time.
Right.
So
And I like to think that Connell Cochran kind of learned his lesson with the robots because 5 years later he was in the movie RoboCop.
nice.
Where he was the owner of the company that created RoboCop and the Ed 209.
Nice.
And when the Ed 209, went off and killed that guy, it was him. He was obviously the owner of the company. He's like, I want this shut down. We can't have this. It's like there's no fixing this robot. This needs to be taken care of. We need to move on. And that's when they give the reins to the other guy who makes RoboCop.
Yeah. No, I did notice I had that role, so yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. And as far as the acting, the acting's actually not that bad in this movie, I feel like.
No, not really.
Where,
They did a pretty good
Dan
job.
O'Herlihy, the guy who played Connell Cochran, I thought he did a great job. Like, he was creepy and, came off as, like, creepy and as sinister and, like, extremely intelligent.
Yeah. Ellie had a few parts where she was a little bit awkward, like she was supposed to be showing emotion. I think I actually put it in my notes where like she kind of got over her dad's death kind of easily.
Yeah.
And there was no shock, like especially when she went in and looked at him dead.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that too. I feel like sometimes in the 80s that as long as you were cute, then you got the role.
Yeah.
You didn't necessarily have to be the best actress.
Mm-hmm.
That happened a lot, especially in the horror genre, where she was a good-looking girl, so that she got the job. Probably not the best actress. And Tom Atkins, I like him in everything I've seen him in. I feel like he does a great job of being kind of like the everyman, even though he's a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's just funny that like all these women throw themselves at him because like he's just a normal looking dude. Like he's not like super handsome guy. It's not like he's played by someone like Brad Pitt or something.
Yeah, or Tom Selleck or
Yeah, anything like that. Like these manly men, he's not like Burt Reynolds or something like that for the time, I guess. But yeah, I mean, he's just like a normal looking dude. Um, but yeah, basically, he just, I don't know, I just like him in everything that he's in. I feel like he's a pretty good actor. And especially, that ending scene, um, you could definitely like feel the panic and the emotion and stuff when he's, screaming at the broadcast company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he did a really good job for sure. Him and Cochran for sure did a fantastic job. Everybody else did pretty good. I mean, even like the side characters, I would probably definitely say the weakest link was Ellie, though.
Yeah, I would agree too. Even like the gas station attendant was pretty good.
Yeah, gas station attendant was good. Oh, wait, which one are you talking about? The one in the town or the one from the beginning of the movie?
Actually, both of them. I was talking about the black guy from the beginning of it, and he's at the beginning and the end.
Yeah. No, yeah, he did pretty good. I thought the one in the town did a really fantastic job too. Well, he was the gas station attendant / the motel guy, I
Yeah, he
guess.
was
So.
just like your, friendly, almost like grandpa that owns his own, little hotel in the middle of nowhere. Just, loves what he does, just loves talking to people kind of thing. And he came
Yeah.
off as just like a genuine person, I guess.
Hmm.
Um,
There were a
but
couple things that were weird overall, though. I know this is a little staggered from when we were talking about things before.
mm,
But talking about the town, what was up? Wasn't there a part that they talked about a curfew?
yeah, there's like a curfew at, I think is it like 9 o'clock?
I thought they said 6 p.m.
Oh, really? Was
I
that
could be
early?
wrong, but I
Yeah,
thought
so
it
there's
said.
like a voice over a PA that tells everybody, time for curfew, get inside. And they show that scene, and um, I guess this would work with part of my trivia too. The voice that comes over the PA system, did you recognize that voice?
No.
The woman's voice? It's Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was her part of this movie. So technically, she's in the first three Halloween movies.
Nice. Well
Um,
played.
yeah, there's part in that too where they show, Jamie Lee Curtis. You just hear her voice coming out of a loudspeaker, and like all these people are going inside, closing up shop. And there's a part where a guy like reaches out and grabs his cat and brings it inside. I'm like, even cats have to abide by this curfew?
I don't remember the cat part actually. That's
There's
interesting.
like a kitten outside the door, and you just see a hand reach out, grab the cat, and pull it inside.
Yeah, well the thing with the curfew was just kind of like I was expecting something to happen, like, because still at this point you don't know that they're robots, and so I was thinking, okay, maybe there are actual witches, or like you were saying, warlocks, and they come out, or they're around town. There was no reason for it. There was no
Yeah,
reason for a curfew. It wasn't like nothing happened, nothing. So I was really
it's
confused.
yeah, pretty much how I took it is that that's how Conal Cochran wants to run his town because he basically owns the town.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there really isn't much explanation for that, or really any much reason for it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just kind of interesting.
Now, the other thing I wanted to point out that really honestly kind of bugged me is so the beginning of the movie is the guy getting chased, and he's like in the town, a town area. He seemed kind of like a junkyard area, but then he got to that gas station where he like collapsed, and the guy took him to the hospital. So in our mind, we're thinking these are all somewhat close to each other. This junkyard, the gas station, and the hospital.
Hmm.
Um, the daughter, when the daughter and the doctor start working together to investigate this, they're just like, oh, the Silver Shamrock company is actually not that far away. So I'm
Yeah,
just like thinking, okay, like on right outside of town or on the other side of town or something. So they get in the car, and one of the longer segments of the movie was them driving to this Santa Maria town or whatever.
yeah,
And I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is how long it's taking you to drive there. They find that her dad's car is there. So what they're telling us, and also both him and the doctor, both wind up running from this town to whatever other town in Northern California this is. But they
yeah.
show it as being like at least something like a 30-minute drive, probably longer.
Well, I think it's even longer because they stay at the hotel after they
Exactly.
get there.
Yeah.
So it's like you couldn't just went home or like decided to go to the town the next day.
Yeah,
So
but then they stated, "Oh, really it's not that far away." So like how far are we talking about? So but then they also show that it's apparently the closest town to the city because both the doctor and her dad run back to the city. It's just like, dude, how long did it take to do that?
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is maybe that gas station is, maybe like a mile or so down the road because he was driving in the car. Um, Dr. Chalice was when he was attacked by Ellie, and then he went on foot. So the only thing I can think of is that gas station is like somewhere in between
Mm-hmm.
because that guy at the beginning of the movie takes Ellie's dad to the hospital. So, maybe he drove him there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it
It's still
like,
really hard to figure out with the geography of everything.
yeah, there could be an explanation, but it just seems weird and a little bit awkward where they make things seem close and then they also make them far away. So that part was just kind of like bugging me. So,
Yeah. Is there any other things you wanted to point out that were interesting?
uh, I thought that they did the filmography was and camera work was done pretty well. One of the
Hmm.
parts, and you actually didn't it wasn't that big of a part anyway, was when the coroner forensics lady got killed,
Yeah.
which seemed totally random because it was like a week after the incident, and then they're
Hmm.
finally like, oh yeah, we forgot to go kill this lady. So then they send one of the robots to go kill her. And it's just like, why didn't you kill her a week ago? Why is it so important that, you kill her now? Oh, that's right, because she just figured out something.
Yeah,
And
and how did they know that she figured that out?
exactly, they didn't
Other
because
than maybe they had the phone calls, like they're monitoring the phone calls because it took place,
yeah,
in Santa Maria
yeah, but
or
no,
Mira.
like she didn't know anything. I mean, the only thing could have been was that she knew the doctor was there investigating stuff. So if the doctor dies, I guess she might look into it or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was odd. But really cool camera angle or good camera angle that they did was when she got killed. She got killed with a drill.
Hmm.
Uh, but they didn't. They showed it, but they didn't show it. And the camera angle that they did was pretty good. I thought they did a pretty good job with the filming. So
Yeah, it was kind of cool the way they cut away. Like they show her like looking up, they show the drill coming down, and then they kind of like show the back of the robot and like her fighting on the floor,
hmm
and you just hear like some crunching, and then she just stops fighting.
yeah,
And to me, that's the kind of stuff that's more effective sometimes, where that's the kind of stuff that'll get to you because you're making it up in your mind, you're piecing it together.
yeah,
I mean, I like gore every once in a while, just to see what they can do. Like in the Friday the 13th movies and some of the other Halloween movies. But it's things like that sometimes too that are just good for a nice change because I feel like they're more effective.
hmm
And I can go in here to some trivia and facts that I've got. I've got a fair amount. Um, I mentioned earlier how Jamie Lee Curtis was the voice of the curfew lady. She is also the voice of the phone operator that Dr. Chalice calls when he calls Santa Mira.
okay. I thought they were the same.
Yeah. Yeah, so just she was kind of just contacted by Tommy Lee Wallace, who was the director, because he was also part of the first two Halloween movies in small ways. Um, so this movie, like I mentioned, it doesn't have Michael Myers in it, and it ends up being the only movie in the Halloween series that does not have Michael Myers. So when they decided they were going to make a third, John Carpenter said, he wouldn't be able to direct it. He said you could make a third movie, but I don't want Michael Myers to be part of it. That story's done. He's like, the first one, we saw what happened. The second one took place directly after the first one, and it was wrapped up at the end. It's like, Michael Myers is dead. When I thought about this movie as a franchise, I thought about it as like an anthology series where each movie has a different story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they came up with the idea of, the mask and the Stonehenge and the witchcraft and all that kind of stuff. And when the movie was released, there was big backlash by people that went and saw it because they were expecting another Michael Myers movie. So people were very upset with that. So when they came with part 4, they brought Michael Myers back. Which, if you watch part 2, there's no chance that they could ever bring him back, but somehow they do in part 4. So at the end of part 2, I'll give kind of the ending here to give you a little bit of backstory. So at the end, Dr. Loomis goes into a room in a hospital with Michael and Laurie. Laurie gets out of the room. Loomis locks the door, and he opens up all of the oxygen tanks in the room, and he lights a match and blows both him and Michael up. And Michael, he staggers out of the room on fire, and he collapses to the ground. And the last shot you see of the movie is just the iconic Michael Myers mask with flames shooting out of it. And the mask burns up. So, Michael is deader than he ever was in the entire series, but somehow they brought him back for the 4th one. And they brought Dr. Loomis back.
Lovely.
Yeah. Next one I got here. So I talked about the scene where Dr. Chalice grabs a mask and throws it on the camera. It was actually Tommy Lee Wallace that did the throwing of the mask on the camera. Prior to shooting, he grabbed the mask, threw it up there, and it landed on the camera on his first try. Because it was written in the script that way. He threw it up there, landed on the first try. They didn't have the cameras rolling at the time. So once they started rolling the cameras, it took them 40 more attempts to get it.
Of course.
And that just made me laugh because, that's just about right. It's like one of those things like, hey, I can do this. And then you try to show your friends and all of a sudden you can't do it. Just, luck of the draw kind of thing. So the intro of the movie, the credits and everything at the beginning has this kind of 1980s super dated computer screen, computer generated effect at the beginning with a bunch of orange lines that zoom out and you see it's a pumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
It took the visual effects designer 4 weeks to create that background for the opening.
What?
4 weeks. That's just a change in technology.
Wow.
To animate that, to show the pumpkin being made and everything with just the simple orange lines took 4 weeks.
Jeez.
Which is hilarious to think about because if you did that now, it would take you 20 minutes?
Well, if you're just creating the still image, yeah, it'd take you 20 minutes. But if you're creating it had that animation aspect to it, it would maybe take a little bit, but yeah, not even a day, not even one day.
Yeah, maybe 10 hours if you're animating the whole thing. It just makes me laugh. The last one I got here, so director Tommy Lee Wallace, he was asked at a movie convention to give the connection between Stonehenge, Ireland, robots, and laser beams that both melt flesh and produce/conjure bugs and snakes from the human body. Somebody asked him that question, and Wallace just responded with, "It's magic, man."
Nice.
Which just cracks me up. Yes, we can move on to grade here. I'll give a little interesting stuff here. So on IMDb, this is rated a 4.9 out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a 42%, while the audience gave it a 27. So what's your thoughts on the movie as a whole, and what would you grade it?
I would, out of what we've watched and everything, I can't remember what I gave Friday the 13th. But I don't know. I kind of feel like these are on the same kind of on the same level a little bit. Because, like I said, up until the robot stuff, I thought it was doing really great. And then it just got crazy. Then things weren't really connecting well. And so it kind of went downhill for me from there. And the ending I get and kind of in everything, but in the moment when it ended, I was just like, that's it. But that was like in the moment. After that, I kind of, I got the same idea you did, where it's just like, oh, it's the unknown, what happened, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it spiraled too much out of control at the end. So I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah, and for me, oh man, like the first time I watched this, I was in high school, and it was right when I turned 18, because at my high school, like our library, we had a pretty decent library for being such a small school, and they had this one area where they had movies you could rent. And I was really into horror movies. Around the time I was really into I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I always loved those. And I remember going through, and I already had the original Halloween. And I was like, oh, they don't have Halloween 2. I was like, but they have Halloween 3. And I didn't read the box or anything. And I rented it. And when I first watched it, I hated it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, this movie is terrible. Like, what the heck were they thinking? Like, where's Michael Myers? I felt the same way as people, that got blindsided going to the theater. And, I probably didn't watch it again for, man. So that was probably like in 2004 or 2005. 2005, I would think. I probably didn't watch it again until 2008. And I wanted to see the second one still, and I bought a DVD that had the second and third one on it. And I was like, I'll watch the third one again. And I watched it the second time. I'm like, yeah, this movie still isn't great, and it's dumb that it doesn't have Michael Myers in it. And it wasn't until probably like the third or fourth time that I watched it, and I'm thinking like, if you take this out of the Halloween series, and if it would have been a movie just by itself, it would have got more recognition.
Yeah.
Would more people have gone and seen it? Probably not, because it had the Halloween name, so that was the reason why people showed up for it. But I feel like most of the criticism towards this movie is solely on the fact that it doesn't have Michael Myers in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's effective movie. It's interesting. It's definitely entertaining, and the acting is pretty good. And like the special effects and stuff really aren't all that bad. The story is there's too much going on. It's a little convoluted in points, and I don't know, like it could use a little more attention to detail. But all in all, it's not a bad movie, and I really like it the more I watch it. But I can't really give it a 5, so I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay. Now, something I wanted to mention, I don't know if you've thought about this, but one thing that probably didn't help people's reaction to this is I don't even know really how you change the Halloween series up after 2 movies with the same, concept. That's not a recipe for success. But the thing that I thought was kind of interesting is that, you have Michael Myers, going around killing people. And this one, so not only is this a different kind of plot, but it is completely different because you don't have a killer going around chasing people. So even if people had hopes and anticipation for that, like they didn't get, even if they didn't care if it was Michael Myers, they had nothing that was similar between the first one and the second one. Because it's just like if you had another one where it's just like a different story, a different town, some different kind of killer or something, that may have transitioned people a little bit better. But this was so different, so different. So
Yeah, it's like it went from a slasher series with the first 2 to like a black magic witchcraft movie.
yeah.
It completely like changed like horror subgenres, which is just kind of funny. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's an interesting movie, and I feel like, as time goes on, it's starting to get like a little more attention just for, trying to do something different because, after this one, they brought Michael Myers back, like I said, and they just kind of just did the same crap over and over.
Yeah.
The fourth one's not bad. That's another one I watched, kind of at a younger age, so I have a little more of a connection to it. I actually saw the fourth one before I saw this one, so that was another thing that kind of led to my confusion with, Michael Myers not being in it.
Yeah.
And actually, the first one I think it's one of the best horror movies ever made. It could even be up there as one of the best independent movies ever made.
Hmm.
And you can watch the first one and second one back to back, and it's like one long movie.
Nice. Yeah, I
So
remember
it's
you
like,
talking about that.
yeah, it's one of the only movies I can think of where, like, at the end of the first one, Michael Myers falls off the balcony. Dr. Loomis looks down, and Michael's laying there, presumably dead, in the lawn. He goes back to check on Laurie. She's okay, so he goes back out to see if what's going on with Michael, and he's gone. And that's how the movie ends. The second one starts off is they do like a little recap of that, and then Loomis goes downstairs to try to find Michael, and then it takes off from there. Like there's no time in between. Laurie's getting taken to the hospital because of her injuries, and Dr. Loomis and the cops are trying to find Michael Myers.
Yeah.
And then to have that end, like I mentioned earlier, with the explosion in the hospital, and then have this one come out of nowhere with Stonehenge and mask and robots and everything. It just
Yeah.
People weren't ready for it, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine watching the first two, getting ready for this, going to the theater and sitting throughout that whole thing, especially the beginning part of it where you're still kind of like, okay, when is Michael Myers showing up?
Yeah, because you really don't know what's going on in the movie until they go to that town.
Yeah.
Because you could still expect Michael Myers to show up, but then like they go to this town and are like, okay.
Yeah. So it's like, at what point does everybody realize, oh my gosh, Michael Myers is never showing up?
Which is just, it's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
All right, so we can move on to our last segment here, which is suggestions.
Thank you. Showtime!
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So suggestions. I'm gonna throw one out at you. Brandon and I were actually talking about this. May have been today. I can't remember. But I'm gonna take you guys back to 1995, and so this is actually gonna be a suggestion for Brandon to watch sometime. It is action, drama, thriller. I would probably put it more as a drama, thriller, suspense, because there's really, I don't think there's actually any action in it. But the movie is called Crimson Tide. So if you like military movies, especially naval submarine movies, you'll probably really enjoy this one. I'm going to have to go back and watch it, but we're going to have a discussion sometime about some of the most talented actors ever, because Hugh Jackman, sorry, not Hugh Jackman. Wait, no, did I get that? Gene Hackman. Sorry. I always get the last name always messes me up. Gene Hackman is definitely in that discussion for me as one of the most talented, diverse actors that I've seen. And he is in this movie. This is just not an overly loaded cast, but it's got a great cast between Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman, Matt Craven, Viggo Mortensen, James Gandolfini, if I said that correctly.
Yeah,
Rocky Carroll. So you might not recognize all those names, but if you look them up, you'll recognize them from different kind of movies because they've done a lot of different things. But all of them are talented, and everyone's performance was just so good, especially Gene Hackman. So I'm not saying, that this is the greatest movie ever made, but just the acting in this, because especially with it being a drama, thriller, suspense, really, I mean, it makes it what it is, the acting. So I really, I highly recommend it. Brandon, I hope you get a chance to see it sometime, just because I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. But I want to watch it again too sometime. I think my dad has a DVD, so I might have to borrow it from him sometime. But yeah, we were talking about military movies. I can't remember exactly why, but then I brought this one up and asked if you had seen it, and you said no. So there's the recommendation.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie I've heard of. I've never had the chance to watch it. And speaking of submarine movies, like I have seen The Hunt for Red October.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't seen Crimson Tide.
Yeah, then I started naming a bunch of different submarine movies, this being one of them. There are, I mean, and not that it's that obscure of a genre, but there's quite a list of submarine movies. So
Rock, yeah, I'll have to check that out. So we can move into our kind of competition we got here, and that is our one-liners. I went first, last week, so I will let you go first this week.
okay, I still need to try to find a sound segment for that somehow, but all right. Well, I think I'm gonna be jumping over into your the actor you used last week. Were you Arnold last week?
I think so. I'm Arnold most weeks.
Okay.
He's got so many.
Well, this one I actually need to go back and watch because I'm really interested to hear it again. But I just have it written down. So this is from The Last Action Hero, 1993.
Okay.
Do you remember that one very well?
Yeah, I've seen it quite a few times.
Okay, I remember it, but I can't remember this scene very well. But it's the line's just too great to use. And so Arnold Schwarzenegger as Jack Slater says, "You want to be a farmer? Here's a couple of acres."
Then he punts the guy.
Yeah. So I gotta watch that.
Oh man, yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Last Action Hero. I had a roommate in college that really liked that movie, so we watched it quite a few times.
Nice. Yeah, it's pretty good. I haven't seen it in a while, but
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting take on the action movie. Mine is going to be a little bit different. Maybe not a lot of people know this, but man, it's just a hilarious movie for quotes. And mine comes from the movie Troll 2. And it's not the quote that most people know from Troll 2, but I would say it's probably the second most known. And it's this: "Do you see this writing? Do you know what it means? Hospitality. And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it." It's a scene where these townspeople give the family like all this food, and the young boy finds out that if they eat the food, it's gonna be bad for the family. I won't give too much away because I know we're probably gonna review this movie sometime because we both watched it and thought it was hilarious.
yeah.
But basically, the boy, he stands up in his chair and he pees all over the food to try to keep the people from eating it. And it's the dad that stands up and yells at him with that. God, the delivery is so terrible, and just the line itself is just hilarious.
Oh yeah, and then the concept too of why he said, just so great.
Yeah. I won't allow it. Oh, okay. So with that, that's it for the episode. Next week, we're gonna be doing something a little bit different. We originally planned something else, but we had the idea today of, since we're both watching The Office, to take one of the most, I guess, light episodes of The Office, considered to be one of the best. And we're going to be reviewing the episode "The Dinner Party." That's from season 4, episode 13, I believe.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, we'll be discussing that episode, talking about it, same as we do with the movies. And until then, thanks for listening. I am Brandon, and he's Caleb, and this time it's personal.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horror-thon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.